I love my FX2 filter. I think it's an excellent piece of kit. I've said it before and I don't see anything changing in the near future. However, for me, there is a wee bit of a problem. I am using it on this Juwel Rio 450. And you can see here where light is being thrown against the wall out of the back of the tank. That is because whether you choose to use the excellent filter tube cradles that hold the pipes in place really, really well or not, the cutouts are still not big enough for the FX series tubing, and it's pushing the lid up. So I decided to do something about it. And since my plan involved chopping into the current lid, I didn't want to do that without a backup plan and a way of returning it to its original state should I need to at some point. So, maybe a little bit indulgently at this stage, I ordered a replacement. I was surprised to find that it was the genuine Juwel product that I got. It's the proper lid that comes with the tank, including the, what do you call it, the wee hole for dropping the food in and stuff, the feed-in hatch. So I was quite happy to continue with the plan. I mean, I'm calling it a plan, but basically I had a rough idea what I wanted to do and made the rest up as I went along. One of the problems I did have is, as usual, all my tools were missing, thanks to the nobody that keeps borrowing them. So I started off with a Stanley blade and looking from above kind of marked out where the pipe sits, so I had an idea of where I was cutting. However, I quickly realised the Stanley blade was not going to go through the lid itself. It is very, very flexible, but it is also very, very dense, and the Stanley blade just wasn't up to it. So I kept opening the lid and checking that I was going in the right direction for the marking. Ideally, what I'd like to have done is used a hole saw for the end of where the pipe was going to sit, and then used a hacksaw to meet the edges of the hole. But like I said, nobody borrowed my tools again. What I ended up having to go with was a pair of these garden secateurs, I think they're called, which were surprisingly effective. As long as I gave a firm and constant squeeze, it actually gave pretty straight lines, or as straight as I needed anyway. Of course, when you're using anything sharp, I would advise taking your time and be very, very careful. But once I'd got the straight lines that I needed, I was able to snap a piece out. And I've roughly got my shape already. With that done, I could then use the Stanley blade to shape the circle part. But again, it wasn't ideal. Much harder work than it should have been. If I could have used the saw piece that I said earlier on, the hole saw, it would have given the perfect circle. So, changed it up for the second one, didn't I? I still used the Stanley blade to roughly mark out the shape that I wanted. And then I still used the garden scissor things to cut the straight lines. However, this time I used a thin flat-headed screwdriver and a hammer to knock out my circle. Definitely should have put a bit of waste wood underneath it to stop the floor getting damaged, but if Mrs. DKF can find which bit of the floor I did it on, well, I'll give her that. Right. Anyway, it worked like a charm, and I think I got away with it. Anyway, lid back in place, and you can tell it has worked. There is no longer any light getting thrown out the back of the lid. I'm not saying it's the nicest job. There is a wee bit of a gap, as you can see. I think if I'd used the proper tools like I'd wanted to, I'd have done a better job of it, and you can do that if you're going to do it for yourself. Could maybe fill that in with something, maybe. I'm not too sure. But if we move back again, you can tell, well, you can't tell that those holes are there really. That's me just a couple of feet in front of the tank, and it just looks absolutely fine from where I'm standing. Obviously, you're going to need to be pretty confident that is where the filter pipes are going to stay for the duration of you using this combo. But I pretty much am. I don't have a lot of choice. I'll show you that. I'll show you for why in a different video. The corner is rising up a little bit, and that is because for a good few weeks it was resting on the pipe, so it has kind of beveled, if that's a word. Maybe need to put something heavy on that for a good few more weeks till it evens out again. But from the side view, it's looking pretty good as well, isn't it? Almost like it was meant to be. least that's what I'm saying anyway. And I'm out. Later.